Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon.
So today we are going to continue our journey in the scholarship module. My name is Amal Hashish. I'm professor of surgery and medical education. And today we are going to talk about the art and science of scientific research. And we can say it like how to do it. So this is the journey. We are going to start the journey from having an idea for research till you are going to do publication of your research. So today's agenda, we are going to cover how to write a research manuscript from A to Z. Starting from formulation of a research question, we discussed that before, choosing the research design, carry out the data collection, and doing data analysis. And today, inshallah, we are going to focus on writing your manuscript. So writing a scientific manuscript for publication is an important yet very challenging form of knowledge dissemination. And actually writing a scientific research is an art and a skill. It is an art because you are going to tell a vivid, carefully sequenced story, and you have to do a clear articulation of the work, and you have to convince the reader, which is very important. And it is a skill born from practicing writing your manuscript. You can write a case study, you can write a review article, you can write systematic review, meta-analysis, everything. So today we are going to highlight on the tips and tricks of writing your scientific manuscript. So before writing, we have to know that we have what's called the anatomy and physiology of a scientific paper. The anatomy of a scientific paper, starting from the title, the abstract, the introduction, the material and methods, the results, the discussion, and references. And the physiology is to know what is the function of every part of these items. We can also say that the structure of a scientific paper, we can use the word IMRAD, which stands for introduction, material and method, results, and A with a small a, and discussion. So IMRAD stands for the structure of a scientific research or scientific paper, and also this structure is acceptable in the form of title, abstract, introduction, etc. So what is the order of writing the scientific research or the scientific paper? We usually start with the title, and sometimes we write the introduction, and sometimes the material and methods and result and discussion. So what's in your opinion, which part can I start my research in, writing my research? Which part you are going to start your writing? Is it the title? Is it the abstract? Is it the introduction? Whatever. So think about it and tell me, what do you think? Any opinion?
I think the aim is the most important part.
The aim of the work, yes, of course. But I'm talking about these items.
Material and methods?
Yeah, okay. Sometimes some people start with the material and methods. Actually, in order to write your manuscript, we usually start with the introduction. And then we imagine or ghost the tables and figures. And then we write the material and methods. And again, we ghost the tables and figures, and then the result, and then the discussion. And then after that, the abstract. The abstract can be written at the end of finishing everything. Sometimes we start with the title page, with the title of the research, and sometimes we change the title after finishing our research. So this is up to you when you are doing your research. So let us talk about every part and how to write it and what are the tips and tricks of writing every part of these items. Now we are going to start with the title page. Actually, the title page usually in any journal, it usually involves the title, the authors, the name of the authors, and the institution. And it came like that. So in the red one is the title, and then the name of the authors, and then followed by their affiliation or their institutions. So this is the title. You can find that after the names, you can find a superscript of numbers or superscript of stars or something like that, if they are from different institutions or different affiliations. If all the authors are from the same department or same institution, you don't need to write numbers superscripted on the names like that. So now we are going to talk about the title. Actually, the title of the manuscript is considered the backbone of any research project or any research article. The title represents the first point of contact between you as an author and the readers and the editors and the reviewers and everything. So we have to write a very good title. The title should convey the maximum information with the minimum number of words. At the same time, it should be representative. So what are the number of words that could be written in the title? Usually they are from 8 to 15 words. And the title should be clear, concise, short, specific, comprehensive, informative, and accurately stating exactly what you mean. And it is better to include the study design. It gives the title a higher ranking if you put the study design, whatever. Is it randomized control study or cohort study or whatever? And usually the title contains the keywords describing the work. So the title should not be too cute, should not contain any jargons or subtitles. You have to minimize the subtitles. Should not contain any acronyms, Roman letter, no italic letters, no underlining of any words, no abbreviation, no dates, and you don't put a full stop at the end of the title. We are not doing that. So how many types of title, how many kind of titles that we have? We have usually 4 types of titles. We have the indicative one, we have the informative one, the interrogative one, and the main title, what's called main title with subtitles. So what about the indicative one? So the indicative title usually indicates the subject matter of a paper, but doesn't give any indication of any result obtained or any conclusion. So this is an example. If I'm going to say the effectiveness of team-based learning on student acquisition of knowledge. You can notice here that every word of the title is starting with a capital letter, except of, on, like that. So this is the indicative title. We don't know the result. We don't know what about the effectiveness of the team-based learning on student acquisition. So this is a type of indicative title. We have also the informative title. This informative title usually gives an indication of the results achieved by the researcher. And this is another example. Team-based learning is an effective method of teaching. So it gives us some hint about the result that we have upon doing our research. We have also the interrogative title, and it is clearly asking a question. And this is an example. Can team-based learning be an effective method for acquisition of knowledge? And also we have the hanging title or title with subtitle, and it appears to be the first in a series without actually saying so. And this is an example, the effectiveness of team-based learning, and then this is teacher perspective. So in order to compare every title with each other, so we have the indicative, the informative, the interrogative, and the hanging title. I will keep this for half a minute just to compare the different titles. So now the question, which one is better? What's your opinion?
I think the
I
informative.
guess. Okay, yes.
So, Dr. Yusuf?
I think hanging titles.
Dr. Yusuf is talking now?
Okay, I guess it depends on the context, and it depends on the message that you want to send.
Okay, right. And any other opinion? Now it depends on the context or what you are going to say. What is the message that you are going to deliver to the audience? Any other opinion?
I think hanging titles is most one. يعني
So Dr. Gamal, you think that the hanging title is more catchy? We say the catchy title is more catchy?
yes, I think.
Okay. Any other opinion? Dr. Rehan?
Yes, maybe the interrogative type of titles, because it's attractive. I'm asking a question, and maybe at the end of my research, it could be answered.
Yes, interrogative title is very catchy title. Any other opinion? Okay, actually,
informative can be more suitable for medical education or research.
Informative is more suitable for medical education. Okay, this is a good idea. Actually, we can say that you can write every title, but at the end, you have to compare or you have to think about them. The title that gives you the best result, the more catchy title, the title that give the audience, that deliver interest to the audience, for example, the title that can deliver your message is the best title. So you can use whatever title you want, and let us practice to highlight that one, to highlight that message. This is a title, and I want your opinion about that title. So any opinion? Is it a good title? The need to some modification? What do you think?
I think it's too long.
Yes, number one, it is too long.
Yes, it's too long. Yes.
Yes. So this is number one. What else?
Contains many abbreviations.
Yes, it contains many abbreviations, right? What else?
It indicates a case control study, but it refers to it with many words. It can be an hanging type case control study at the end.
I didn't get that.
It says with in the controls and inpatient receiving. So it can be summarized by telling the effect or the progression of for transitional carcinoma case control study.
So we can modify it.
I think mention,
yes.
Mention statements from material and methods in control and inpatient receiving intravesical therapy.
Yes.
I'm putting statistical analysis in the title.
Yes, okay. And what about the full stop at the end of the title?
Yeah.
We don't need to put any full stop at the end of the title. What about the letters, the first letter of every word? We need to make it capital, okay? So this title contain a lot of problem. So what about this title?
No full stop at the end?
Yes. Okay. What else?
I don't know.
Versus
Should we
off in, should it be capitalized?
Yes, off is capital, shouldn't be capital, and in is capital, it shouldn't be a capital. What else? So you are right. So propose a title for this photo. I want you to think about an interrogative title, informative title, indicative title, and hanging title. So propose a title.
effect of smoking in a car on the health of infant?
Let us say the effect of passive smoking. Okay?
Yes.
Because the child is not smoking. The adults are smoking besides the child. So the effect of passive smoking on child health. So what type of title is this? Is it informative? Is it indicative? Is it interrogative?
Indicative.
Definitely.
It is indicative because you don't give us any part of the result. It is an indicative title. The effect of passive smoking on children health or whatever. Okay. Yeah, this is a good title. Any other opinion?
Can I give an informative title and I say passive smoking leading to serious morbidity among newborns?
Yes. Passive smoking leading. Can we change the word leading?
Associated with.
Yes. So we can say, for example,
high morbidity during newborn associated with passive smoking.
Yes, right. You are right. So this is an informative title. You give us some information about the result of your research. Right. Can anybody give us an interrogative title?
Yes. Can I suggest something?
Yes, Dr.
Can passive smoking affect the sleeping habits of the newly born children?
Excellent. Excellent. This is an interrogative title.
We can also say, what is the effect of passive smoking on children's health?
We can say what is the effect, but it looks like it's not a research. But the other we can use can. It's better than what, because what is asking a question for somebody, but this is give you some mysterious thing in doing your research. So I think can is better than what.
Okay.
Any title, any hanging title?
Effect of passive smoking on children's health. Data from children aged between 1 and 5 years.
Excellent. This is an excellent title. Yes, I agree about that. So these are 4 different titles in 4 category. So can you give me a title about that? Informative title, interrogative title, indicative title, and hanging title.
Can junk food lead to obesity among children?
Can what? Can fast food?
Junk food or fast food?
Can fast food?
Yeah.
Can fast food lead to morbid obesity among children? Yes, this is an interrogative title. Any informative title? Now I want informative title.
Consumption of junk food and obesity in children.
Consumption of junk food or fast food causes morbid obesity in children. This is an informative title. So you give us some information that the abuse or consumption of fast food can cause obesity in children. Excellent. This is an excellent title. What else?
دكتور
Now
ممكن
we
نقول
need Dr. Sarah اتفضل.
association between fast food consumption and childhood obesity.
Yes, okay. So this is what kind of title?
Indicative.
Indicative title. So we can say it like that, studying the association between using fast food and the obesity or the body mass index of children. We don't have any idea about the association, so you are writing the title like that. This is an indicative title. Any other titles? Hanging title. We are missing the hanging title.
Can consumption of junk food lead to obesity in children?
This is an interrogative one. We need
Yes.
now the hanging title.
Hanging one can be obesity during childhood and fast food consumption.
Imagine.
During obesity in childhood
And fast food consumption.
on fast food, and then we need completion of this title to make it hanging title. We can say parent perspective, for example, or scientist perspective. We have to complete it because the hanging title has two parts. So this is the first part. Can we complete it in what?
You can complete this mother's perspective.
Yes,
we can add to the hanging, exploring the impact of dietary habit in pediatric health, for example.
Yes, this is an example. This is a good example. So the take-home message of this part is that the effective title should be short, specific, complete, informative. Informative here doesn't mean that it has to be informative title. It has to be informative in general. It should be representative to your work. It should be unambiguous, and it should grab the reader's attention. And we can summarize that in saying we have to have a catchy title. And actually, we can write a title, and we can use any of the tools of artificial intelligence to give us many other titles, and we can choose from them. So this is a very easy task to do it. You can have whatever kind of title and then ask the artificial intelligence to give you different types of title, and you can choose whatever you like from these titles. Now about the title, is there any question about the title? Okay, let us move to the authors. So now we talked about the title, who should be the author, and who goes first and who goes last. What is your opinion? Who should be the author of any scientific manuscript? What do you think?
I think the first author is the one who work most or make most of the research, and the last one is the supervisor.
Yes. Any other opinion?
The most qualified and specialist in subject.
The most qualified should go last or first?
And in the speciality of the subject of research.
So the most qualified should go first or last?
First.
The most qualified should go first. Okay.
No.
It depends on
the most qualified should go last.
Okay.
Is the most qualified last?
Okay. Let us solve this problem. Actually, we have the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, which is ICMGE. They decided who should be the author, and they decided who should go first and who should go last. So first, we have to know who should be the author. Who should be the author should be the one who generates the idea of the research, the one who participates in collecting data, the one who analyzes the data, the one who revises the work or do critical appraisal of the work. So any one of these persons could be an author. But Who should go first? The first author is the one who designs and conceives the study, or writes the first draft, or the partner with the last author for subsequent draft. And usually the first author is the most junior one. What about the last author? The last author usually the most experienced investigator in this research. The second author is the one who did major contribution. The third author is the one who did important contribution. And after that, everyone who qualifies for authorship are after the third one till the last one who is the most senior or the most experienced investigator. Did you get this idea? So this is not opinion of anybody. It is an opinion of committee, which is making their decision yearly in Vancouver, in Canada. So they are a group of people who are experienced in research, and they have these regulations in order to avoid any problem in writing the authors. And of course, we have many problems with the authors as the gift author and the ghost author, etc. And these are unethical, and we are going to talk about them later today, inshallah. So as regards, so we are now covered the title, and we said that the abstract is not written now. It has to be written at the end of your work. So now we have to move to the introduction. So the introduction actually is very important to be written in a very professional way. And actually a good introduction is half of the success. The introduction should be written in 1 or 2 pages, and it can be written in 3 or 4 or 5 major elements. So in order to write it in 3 elements, you have to cover, number 1, what we know, what do you know about the problem or the subject, and what we don't know, and why we did this study. But actually, I'm not convinced with that. I write this one, the 5 whats. In order to write a very good introduction, you have to answer these 5 whats. The first what is the problem? So you have to say, we have a problem in so and so. And then you have to answer the second what, which is, what is the importance of this problem? Why I'm going to do my research in this point? And the third one, what was tried to solve this problem before by others, and what is the gap? And here comes the gap in the literature. What is the problem that you want to solve it? What is the gap that you are going to solve it or to bridge it in order to finish your research? And the fourth what is, what are you going to do in order to solve this problem? And the 5 what is your expectation? So if you cover these 5 whats, you will write a very good introduction. Actually, these 5 whats is not written in any place. Just take it from me. And that's why, in order to write a good introduction, you have to start broad. And this is the first one. The first what is the problem? And then you have to use the funnel or the inverted triangle type of organization, like that. What is the problem? So talk about the problem and what is the importance of the problem and why I'm going to do that, to do this research in order to convince the readers that you pick up the very good point for doing your research. And then what was tried by the other key player or the other researchers in order to solve the problem, and what is the point that they failed to solve. And then what are you going to do? I'm going to do so and so, and I'm expecting to have that. So this is the inverted funnel or the inverted triangle. If you write every part of it, you will write a very good introduction. And of course, the introduction should be written in paragraph. And don't write any paragraph more than 10 lines, no longer than 10 lines. Very important to be concise and to write it in the paragraphs like that. For example, the first 1 or 2 paragraphs, you will say what we know. In the second or third paragraph, you say what we don't know. And then after that, why we did this study. Or in the first paragraph, you said what was the problem, and the second paragraph, what was done before to solve the problem, and why it is important. And after that, the following paragraph, you will say what is the gap and what is the research question and what are you going to do to solve the problem. And then you end by your expectation from doing this research. So this is how to write your introduction. And we have to remember that every paragraph should be followed by a reference. And actually, the introduction is written in the present time, in the present tense. It's not in the past, except if we are going to use something to say something about the history, so you use the past tense. But usually, the introduction is written in the present tense. And we have to know that we don't need to copy, and we shouldn't copy. Otherwise, this is called plagiarism. So what to do? In order to write your paragraphs, you can use a paraphrasing. A paraphrasing is a process where you repeat the meaning of a text in a completely new words. And after paraphrasing, also, if you are paraphrasing some paragraph that somebody wrote before, you have also to put the reference for this paragraph. Even after paraphrasing, you have to put the reference. So now how to paraphrase? We have many ways of paraphrasing. The first way and the more safe way, the safest way is to read the paragraph and to try to memorize what is it about, and then to write it by your own words. And this is the safest way to paraphrase any paragraph. And don't forget at the end of the paragraph to put the reference of this paragraph. So this is the most or the safest way to paraphrase. We have another way to do paraphrase, which are the online paraphrasing tools. And we have many paraphrasing tools, and many of them are available online. For example, this one is paraphrasingonline.com. So what are you going to do in this place, which is your text is written in? This is the blank one. You can copy and paste the paragraph that you want to paraphrase. And then you click on this paraphrase, and then you will have the result. This is the paragraph. And then you click on the paraphrase part, and then this is the click, and then you will have the paraphrasing of your part. Also, we have the rephrase.org. This is another site in order to do paraphrasing. And again, we have the artificial intelligence can do paraphrasing, and many of the tools that we mentioned last time are doing paraphrasing. For example, SciSpace is one of the best place to do paraphrase, and it also can do literature review assistance, and it can search for paper, and it can do citation management. It can do many things. Also, the site like Cite, it's called Cite. Also, it can help in finding the papers and in paraphrasing. Also, PaperPal is one of the good tool to focus your study, and it can give you citation, give you research assistant, and paraphrasing can help in that. And Acer also is one of the good place to do paraphrasing, and it can help in text generation and rewriting and AI detection and citation generation, etc. Also, many of them can do paraphrasing and humanization, which is changing the character of the writing into as if the human being is writing it. So, and the question about plagiarism, there is a question, and we will talk about plagiarism later on. So in this part, in the introduction part, if I have any paragraph that I'm going to use any of the online tools for paraphrasing, I have to revise it again, because many of them are not right. So again, we have, if we use any paraphrasing tool, I have to use again a plagiarism checker tool, another plagiarism checker, in order to know if there any problem in that. And there are many tools for plagiarism checking. So the take-home message in the part of the introduction, we have to know that introduction should highlight the following points. The importance of the subject. As we said, what is the importance of the subject? And the previous study, what has been done before, and the gap in the literature, and to define the problem to be solved. I'm going to solve the problem, and what I'm going to do, and to summarize the problem and in a good way, because this is the selling point of your research. And the general rule is that introduction should be kept for 1 to 2 pages, and it should be written in the present tense, and we should use the active voice and avoid lengthy and unfocused review, and we have to revise it many times. So this is about the title and the introduction. So any question? You have any comment, any question?
Thanks. Clear.
Okay, so let us move to the next part, which is the material method. And actually, the material method can be a cause of absolute rejection of any article. That's why it should be written very meticulously. So the material method should include the following. It should include full description of the material or subject, full description of the methodology, full description of the data collection tool, and the ethical point of view of this research. So let us highlight that point. We need to highlight that the period of the study and what is the end point of the study, end point of the research. So let us highlight every one of them separately. Now, full description of the material and subject. So in this part, we have the material are the people or the tools in the lab or anything. So you can say population or can say whatever you want. But we have to highlight in this part the sampling and from where I get this sample. And sampling is a process of choosing some representative number of the target population. While highlighting the part of the sampling, we have to say what is the origin of my sample and from where I get this sample and what is the type of sampling I use and what is the size of the sample that I use. Okay, what is the sample origin? Our sample could be patient, could be children, could be adult, could be whatever, could be student, could be whatever. So this is the sample origin, and I have to say that my sample is a student, undergraduate student, or is a postgraduate student, is whatever. And then we have to define the population. In order to say the sampling, we have to know what is the population. We have the target population, the study population, and the sample population. So the target population is a population who mostly suffer from the problem or who mostly have the same character. For example, if I'm going to do test of one exam on a group of medical students, so my target population who are sharing the same character are the medical students all over the country, for example. And this is called the target population. Study population are the part of the target population who are accessible to you during doing your research. So the medical students who are available, who are present in your institution, these are the study population. Of course, if your institution is having 1,000 students, you cannot take all the 1,000 students to be your research population. So we have to take sample of these 1,000 students, and this is called the sample population. So the sample population are the subjects who were recruited from the study population in order to collect the data for your study. Is it clear? Target population are the whole population who are having the same character, study population are those population who are available to you, and you are going to take sample population from these students to represent the study population. So this is sampling. So now we have the target population, the study population, and the sample population. Is there any types of sampling? Yes, of course, you know that. We have the probability sample and the non-probability sample. The non-probability sample is a method of sampling wherein it is not known which of these individuals from the population will be selected as a sample. But in the probability sample, this is the sampling technique in which the subject of the population get an equal opportunity to be selected as a representative for the sample. And you know this photo from the last time, that this sample is not representative for this population, because this sample, all of them are males and all of them are adult, and the population, they contain females and they contain adult and young children. So this is a non-probability sample, because this sample is not representing the whole population, but it can be used. And on the other hand, we have this sample, which is representing the whole group. This sample is containing females and males and small and young and elderly and whatever. So this sample is representing the whole population, and this is called probability sample. So what are the different types of probability and non-probability sample? In the non-probability sample, we have, these are 7 types, which are the main types of samples that we can use in medical research. In the non-probability types, we have the convenience sample, the quota sample, and the snowball sample. For the probability sample, we have the simple randomization, the stratified sample, the cluster sample, and the systematic sample. So now I will stop here, and anybody want to share his experience about the sampling that he used before in any of his research? We want to share our experience. So in order to focus, we are now talking about the material method. What are you going to write in the material method? You have to highlight, firstly, the sample. From where did you get the sample, and what is the kind of sampling that you use, and what is the size of the sample that we are going to talk about it after 2 minutes. So any idea to share? No?
I'm going to talk about a study that has been conducted by me like 1 month, 1 or 2 months, actually 2 months ago. It was about the impact of war on the prevalence of malaria at my country. When it comes to the sampling technique, I have selected randomly 3 states out of the country.
You selected what, Dr. Yusuf? I didn't get that. You selected what?
Three states out of the country, depending on the geographic distribution, so as to have, as you mentioned, representative sampling of the different geographical areas in the country. We then randomly from each state, I have chosen randomly a certain city within the state. This is a stratified sampling technique. And within the strata that we have selected, randomly even we have selected certain cities to represent the already selected states.
Okay, so you call this stratified sample or cluster sample?
If I've taken the entire state, it's going to be cluster. But within the state, I have randomly selected certain towns or cities.
Okay, so let us highlight that. You have a good research, actually, good point of research. So let us highlight every one of them so you would be acquainted about them. So we have now, we are going now to talk about the non-probability sample. We say that in the non-probability sample, we have the convenience sampling, the quota sampling, and the snowball sampling. So what about the convenience sample? This is one of the non-probability samples. How to do it? This selection process is based on accessibility of the participant to you. It is all only depend on the accessibility. The people who you can access are those who are in your sample. So you are selecting participant that can be easily located in your locality or in your place or whatever. So that's why it is called convenience sample. It came from convenience. So the second part or the second type of the non-probability sample is the quota sample. How to do the quota sample? Number one is to divide the population into groups. For example, let us make it on the student in the medical school. So we can classify the student into groups. For example, group 1 is the student who are present in first grade and then second grade, group 2 and group 3 from in the third grade, whatever. And then I have many groups. I will select from them. The second step, I will select from them conveniently, in a very convenient way. I will catch from the first grade some student, from the second grade some student, and etc. And then I will use this as a quota sample, which means that it is a convenience sample, but it is taken from different group of population. And that's why it is called the quota sample. It is not specific. It is all the students who are available, who are accessible. I can use them. So there is no randomization, nothing. This is called the quota sample. What about the snowball sample? Snowball sample is that if you have, for example, some students who are high achiever. You have 5 students who are high achiever, and you ask them to bring their classmates who are also high achiever, and then the other students are bringing their other classmates who are high achiever. So you depend on one. You depend on the student to give you their other colleagues. And there is a very famous example of that. If somebody want to make a research, for example, on the addictive person, so he knows that there are 3 or 4 addictive who are coming to the clinic, for example, and I want to do more research. I want to have more samples. So I will ask this addictive person to bring his colleagues in order to complete the research. So this is why it is called the snowball sampling. So in step number 1, we identify few initial participants to be included in the study, and then ask this participant to refer to other participants who are similar to them. And after that, you repeat that and again till you have your snowball sample. And these are the 3 types of the convenient of the non-probability sample. Let us say them again. Number 1 is a convenient sample. You are taking the sample who are available to you and very accessible. You don't need to do any randomization. Any person who are available, and it is very easy. The quota sample, it is the same, but here in the quota, you are classifying the whole population into groups, and you are taking conveniently part of each group. And in the third one, which is the snowball, you are depending on completing your sample on the participant themselves.
Doctor, can I ask something, please?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask about the quota sample. Should I take the same number of samples from each level in the quota sample, or it's not not a condition?
No.
Okay.
You don't need to do that. You can
just
take
a convenient sample. Okay.
Yes, convenient. That's why we said it is a convenient sample. It's not non-probability sample.
Yes.
That's why the non-probability sample usually they are not representing the whole population.
Yes.
And the result of researches that is based on non-probability sample, sometimes you cannot do generalization. What is meant by generalization meant that you can apply to the general population, because the sample that you have taken is not representing the whole population. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
So these are the types of the non-probability sample. So the advantage of the non-probability sample is that it is cheap, it is time-saving, it is simple to be implemented, but actually it has a limitation that it cannot usually be generalizable because the sample is not representing the whole population. Okay, so now these are the main types of the non-probability sample. What about the probability sample? We have 4 types, or we are going to highlight the 4 types which are very famous. Number 1 is the random sample. All of you know the random sample. We have a group of population and randomly you are selecting some of them to be included in your research. Now, how to randomize and what is randomization? Randomization is a process by which allocation of subject to treatment or to any experiment is done by chance without the ability to predict who is in what group. So you can use randomization by any way, like the coin test, like the dice rolling, the sealed envelope, random number, computerized program, whatever type of randomization, this is the allocation scheme, whatever type of randomization you can use. So this is the first one. You can do randomization from a certain group randomly by whatever method that you are going to use. In medicine, we usually use the closed envelope. For students, you can use the computerized because their name is written, etc. Whatever type of randomization, you have to highlight it and you have to write it in the material and method. So the method of randomization should be written in the material and method. The second type of the probability sample is a stratified random sample. Stratified random sample is that you are classifying the participant in general, or the target group or the sample group into strata. Strata based on whatever, based on age, based on the ranking, based on education. So let us apply this for student, in medical student. We are classifying student into strata. Stratum number 1 could be the student in the first grade. Stratum number 2 could be first student in second grade, etc. So after that, we are randomly selecting from every strata this sample size. So what is the difference between this one and the quota one in the non-probability sample? What do you think? We are classifying them into strata and we are randomly selecting group from every strata or every stratum. So what is the difference between stratified random sample and the quota sample? Did you notice any difference?
No randomization in the quota.
Yes, in the quota sample, we are stratifying the groups, but we are selecting from every group whatever we want, conveniently. Okay, so we are taking convenience sample from the strata that we choose in the quota sample. But here in the stratified random sampling, we are classifying the population into strata, and then we are randomly selecting students from every strata. For example, student in grade 1, we are randomly selecting some of them, and the student in grade 2, we are going to randomly select a group of them, etc. And this is why it is called probability sample, because it is depending on randomly selecting students from every stratum. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yeah, Professor.
Okay, now we'll move to the third type of the probability sample, which is called the cluster sample. And that's why I asked Dr. Youssef, did you call it stratified sample or cluster sample? Because cluster sample, you divide the population into clusters. For example, different area from different cities or different localities, and then apply simple random sampling from every cluster, because this is something which is geographically applied to the geographical studies. And then step number 3, you include all individuals selected from all clusters in your sample. Actually, the cluster sample usually used in study in studying large population or in geographically dispersed population. That's why I was asking Dr. Yusuf, is it a cluster sample or is it a stratified sample? So Dr. Yusuf, what do you think?
As I mentioned, Prof, we classified or we have chosen 3 states out of around 15 states. And within these 3 states, randomly, we selected a city within the 3 states. So I might go for a stratified sampling.
I think this is a cluster sampling. So anyway, they look like the same, but actually cluster is more applicable to your study. The fourth type of the probability sample is a systematic sample, which is used to select representative sample from population in an orderly fashion. So for example, we are choosing number 1, number 3, number 5, number 7, etc. This is a program way of sampling, and we are using, for example, we are picking random strata, and then we are moving, defining 1, 3, 5, 7, etc. This is a systematic sample. So you can use it like that. And there are many references to highlight what are the types of sampling. Is there any question about the sampling?
Thank you, doctor.
Is it clear for everybody?
I guess before doing this, determining the sample size. No, you have to determine the sample size before using the sampling method.
Yes, of course. We are going to talk about the sample size now.
Okay.
Okay. So you said you need to combine them. You have to highlight the sample size and the sampling method, both of them. So now we talked about the origin of the sample and the field of the field size. You have to mention it in the material method. We talked about the type of the sample and the sample size. We are going to talk about it now. So the sample size, we have to ask ourselves, is a study sample representative or not? Now, if you have some reflection, what about the quantitative and qualitative research? Which type of sample we are going to use in the quantitative and qualitative research? If you remember that in qualitative research, the sample size usually small and is not representing the whole population. That's why we are calling that the qualitative research cannot be generalizable. It can raise a hypothesis, but it cannot test the hypothesis. On the other hand, the quantitative research, we are using many types of sampling, and the sample here should be representative to the whole population. That's why we call that the quantitative research is usually representing the other population, and that's why it can be generalizable, which means that it can be applied to the whole population. So usually in the qualitative research, sample size is too small, can be 15, for example. And in the quantitative research, we have to use a good sampling process. That's why while we are going to have our sample, we should emphasize on the representation and generalization, specifically if we are going to do a quantitative research. So now how to calculate the sample? Actually, there are many formula for calculation of the sample, like the Stephen-Thompson formula, like the Yamani formula, but actually I like this formula. It is very easy formula, the Sloven's formula. The Sloven's formula is the n, small n, equal to capital N over 1 plus n e to the power 2. What does that mean? The small n is the sample size that we are going to calculate. The capital N is the population, and the E is the margin of error. So let us say some example. So for example, E to the power 2, E usually is considered 0.05. This is the margin of error. So to the power 2, we can multiply E 0.05 by E 0.05. The result would be 0.0025. The capital N, if I have a population, for example, 10,000, we can multiply the capital N, which is the 10,000, by 0.0025. The result will be 25. So what about the N? If I multiply, if I divide the 10,000 over 1 plus 25, you will have the result, which is the sample size. It's very easy to calculate it by the solving formula. But we have another ways, which is up to date. The other method is to use any of the tools that are present online. For example, we use usually the Open API sample size calculation, or the ROAST sample size calculation, or the G-Power, or the whatever. So this is, if you Google it, you will find the API sample size calculation. And this is the symbol of it. And if you get access to it, it will give you many options to calculate your sample size. It will ask you many questions about your study, and it can help you to calculate your sample size. And there are many places and many sites and many platforms to help you to calculate your sample size. And also, you can use artificial intelligence in calculating your sample size. You write your research question, you write the population, and you write study design, and you can discuss with your AI agent about the sample size that you are going to use. So now this is a question, which is a very important question. Is the sampling method used in a study is a good indicator for its research quality? What do you think? Yes or no?
Is the sample a good indicator?
Yes.
Is it yes or no?
Definitely yes.
Yes, Eva.
Yes.
Doctor, I think it's not related to the research quality. It's just about the statistics. If your statistician is good, competent, he will choose a good sample size. But about the quality, about the idea, about the design, about the developing of the methodology, it's not related.
Excellent. This is an excellent answer. Actually, the type of sampling method used is not related to the quality of the research paper.
Any gift?
And this is, yes, please.
Any gift?
Pardon me?
Any reward for who answered like right? Yeah.
Yes, congratulations for this answer.
Low budget course. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So why we say that? Because this is based on many researches and many systematic review and meta-analysis. They give us this answer. The type of sampling method used is not related to the quality of the research paper. But what is important for the quality of the research paper is the study design, is the methodology in general, is your way to convince the readers about your research. So this is very important than the sampling method. Yet the sampling is very important, but it is not is not the most important part in having a good quality for your paper. So now let us move to the second section of the material and method, which is a study design. And you already know the study design. So I have to highlight in the material and method section what type of study design I used. And you know now what is the difference between the qualitative research and quantitative research. You have to highlight, is it a qualitative or quantitative or a mixed type of research? And if it is quantitative research, what type of quantitative research? Is it a case control? Is it a case control study? Is it a cohort study? Is it a randomized control study? Is it a quasi-experimental study? So you have to highlight what type of study. If it is in the qualitative type, you have to highlight which type of study, but it's not very important to say that it is a phenomenology or ethnography or grounded theory. It's not very important, but it is better to mention that this study is so and so. And if it is a mixed study, it is better to say it is an explanatory sequential or exploratory sequential or whatever. It is better to say that, but it is not necessary to say that. So now the next section of the material and method is the full description of the data collection tools. So you have to describe what data collection protocol did you follow and what are the types of data analysis techniques that you use, and to describe the equipment, if you use any equipment, and any computer program you use. So as regards of that, the data collection in general, if you are going to do an experimental study, you will highlight what is the size of your population and what type of experiment that you did, etc. So you have to explain everything. Is it an operation? Is it a medication? Is whatever? So if it is an experimental study. If it is an observational study, you have to highlight did you get your data from records, from observation, from interviews, from surveys? And actually surveys is one of the very important part of doing observational research. For example, you need to have a questionnaire. So in order to have your questionnaire, you can use any other questionnaire from any other paper, and you have to mention the author of this questionnaire, or you can make your own questionnaire using the AI, for example. And in this questionnaire, you have to decide before doing the questionnaire what is the population and what is the research question and what is the type of the scaling that you are going to use, and you have to pilot your questionnaire before using for a general population. And of course, you can use the AI to design a questionnaire for you. But our advice is not to take it as a granted. You have to revise everything, revise it many times before using it. And actually, you need, before distributing your questionnaire, is to validate your questionnaire. And validation is the process of establishing that the questionnaire is measuring what you are intending to measure in your research. And actually, validation helps to ensure the data collected are reliable and valid. And if you validate your questionnaire, you have to highlight in the material method what are the methods of validation that you used for your questionnaire. If you have a previously made questionnaire and you take it from any other paper, so you don't need to write what is the validation method. You need only to write the reference of this questionnaire. And again, data for qualitative research, we depend on qualitative research, on observation, on focus group discussion. If you did any focus group discussion, you have to highlight in the material method how many groups did you use, and what are the number of participants in every group, and what are the questions that you asked the group in order to have your results. And after you finish, you have data analysis, and you have to say what are the tools that you use for data analysis. For example, if you use the computer or you use the thematic analysis of the data, whatever type of data analysis tool you use, you have to highlight it. And actually, Julius is one of the AI tools which can help in analyzing the data in a perfect way and can give you charts and can give you tables, everything. So the last part of the material method is the ethical point of view. I will stop here. Any question in the previous part? Any comment?
Thank you, Doctor.
So,
okay. Yes. Salem, go ahead, please.
Okay. So now about the final part, the ethical point of view. Before discussing the ethical point of view, there are 2 points I want to highlight, because sometimes some people, they don't know what to do with them. We have what is called the primary outcome of the research, and I have to highlight it in the material method. What is meant by the primary outcome? The primary outcome is the main focus of your research, and this what is written in the objectives or the aim of your research. And it usually directly address the research question. Let us have an example. For example, if I'm going to test a new medication for headache, my primary outcome is a reduction in headache severity or frequency after taking the medication. This is the aim. I want to test a medication for treatment of headache. So this is my objective. I want to test the efficiency or the effect of this medication on the reduction of the severity and frequency of headache. This is my primary outcome. My secondary outcome is the outcome that is additional information collected alongside the primary outcome. For example, this is the same example. The secondary outcome is the side effect experienced by participants who are taking medication for treatment of headache. So this is the secondary outcome. Again, I will give you another example. If we are going to use it in medical education, if I'm surveying teenagers about social media use, my primary outcome and my goal is to measure the average amount of time teenagers spent on social media platforms each day. This was my primary outcome or my goal in doing this research. So what about the secondary outcome? It could be the types of social media platforms teenagers use mostly frequently, or the impact of social media or their sleep pattern or in their mood or whatever. So any other outcome that I have more than my primary outcome is considered the secondary outcome. So the take-home message of this part is that, number one, during writing my material method, I have to highlight the population, the sample origin, the sample size, the inclusion-exclusion criteria, and how is the sample was taken. What is the type of sampling method that I used. I have to highlight the time and the duration of follow-up, if I have any follow-up, and if there is any dropout. What is meant by dropout? If I'm having a sample and, for example, people who are taking some medication and group of them, they didn't show up, so they dropped the follow-up. That is called the dropout. I have to mention that also in my material method. I have to highlight the design that I used. Is it sensible? Is it qualitative, quantitative, whatever kind of research? And I have to highlight the statistical analysis method that I used in doing this research. So these are the title, the introduction, and material method in this part of our session. So any question? Any question?
No,
thank you.
thank you.
Everything is clear. Thank you, doctor.
So let us continue. Let us continue in the following part, which is the result. So the result is considered the core of any paper. And actually, the result should include only the data or numbers that support or validate the conclusion. So we have to emphasize that we have to use the data from our research only, not from any other research, not comparing our research with other research, because there is another section for that. We have to begin in our result with the most important result, and we have to keep focusing on the objective of the study. And it is very important to use graphs and table in the result part, and the result is written in the past tense, and it is because it is something which is finished already. So the result is presented in text, in tables, and in figures. And usually tables summarizes details, and the figures give impression. So we have to know how to use the tables and the figures in a very professional way. Figures could be in the form of a graph, in a form of diagram, in form of photos or schemes or whatever, okay? And never have a table or figure that is not mentioned in the text. So you have in your text, say, write the text and say, as being shown or being illustrated in figure number so and so, or in table number so and so. Also, in the result, you can use diagram like that or table like that. Also, you can use algorithm like that. It is very acceptable to put algorithm in the material, in the results. Now we have to know the anatomy of the table. The table should contain, the first part is a table legend, should come up before the table, and then the column of the title, and then the table body, and then the footnote of the table. And this is called the anatomy of the table. And this looks like a good table. Why? Because table should stand without any text. Table should explain itself. For example, this table, you can see the mean age, the male sex, the white race, cigarette smoking history, diabetes, etc. So it's explaining everything, and it is comparing even medication with a placebo. That means that is a randomized control study, and the table is explaining many data that could not be explained, or if you are going to explain it in a text, you will take maybe 3 to 4 pages. So one table should be written or should be put for every 1,000 words. And you have to use a descriptive short title, and usually written above the table, and it could be written in bold. And we have to remove the internal lines of the table, because putting the internal lines makes the table very confusing. And we have to keep the footnotes of the table to the minimum. These are the criteria of making a good table. We have also anatomy of a figure. We have the y-axis and the x-axis, and we have major text and we have minor text, and usually the legend of the figure is written under the figure, like that. The legend is written under the figure. And we have 4 common types of figures, like the bar graph, the frequency histogram, the XY scatter plot, and the XY line graph, for example, like that. And the legend is written under the table, the graph. This is also a bar graph, frequency histogram, XY scatter plot, etc. And we can have also the pie chart. If you are going to use figures or photos, you have to cover the eye if it is a human being, and you have to put a very high quality photo with no pixels. And actually, again, the legend of the photo is written under the photo. If you are going to use X-ray, you have to put marks or you have to put arrows in the X-ray to make it more visible. So now the important point for figures and table, they are considered as a powerful communication tool, and they give the manuscript a professional feel, and they should attract the interest of the readers, and they should present large amount of complex information that if you are going to write it in text, it will take too many times and too many pages. And most journal, actually, this is a secret, most journal editors and reviewers usually look at the tables and figures before beginning to read any article. So again, you can write the figures like that figure, or you can make an abbreviation like FIG. And you usually write the legend under the photo or under the figure. And the numbering of the table and figures should be different. So you have to have numbers for the table and again numbers for the figures. Okay? The word table is written as a table. There is no abbreviation for the word table. And the legend of the table should be written above the table. Okay? So now the final message of this part, that the table should stand alone. It should stand for itself. That's why we say the result is the heart of any paper. Any question?
And I think we should highlight that any figure or table should be cited in the related context. So even if you put the figure just under the related paragraph, you have to write figure 1 in the end of the paragraph.
Yes, that's
Because
why we
sometimes we miss this point.
yes, yes. Thank you for this point. We mentioned that already. We said that never, never, and never. Don't mentioning the number of the table or the number of the graph in the text. You have to mention them because if you don't mention them, you are making a very confusing part for the readers. Any other comment or any other question or any question? Now we will move to the discussion, and the discussion will explain what does the work mean. And actually, it is the hardest section to be written. The discussion is an explanation of the result, the research, and it highlighting the relationship between your work and the other's work. And we are saying that the other's key player or the other player in the field. The result should address every point separately and give clear information about the problem. And also you have to put your personal thoughts in that discussion. So the discussion should be written in 2 to 3 pages, and actually it should be more than the introduction. It can be structured starting by the very important point and then going through and through, or starting by the age or the gender or whatever, and then go in the depths. And it is written mostly in the present tense. And it is summarizing the main finding, and it is comparing your work again with the other major player in the field or the other researcher that they did their research previously. It should highlight the strengths and limitation of your research, and it should discuss the clinical application of the research, and it should initiate future thoughts for this point. So it is written, as we said, in paragraphs, whatever number of paragraphs. For example, paragraph number 1 will summarize the main finding. And again, you have to write the research question in this paragraph. And then the following paragraph, you are going to summarize the supporting finding. And then what is the implication and what is the limitation and what is the difference between your work and the other work, etc. And as we said, it is the hardest section to be written in the manuscript. Again, we have to say the conclusion must fulfill the promise of the introduction, and the conclusion should be written concisely and clearly, and it should include only the essential information, and it should again emphasize on the research question, and it should summarize the main finding, and it should highlight your new contribution or new implication in the field. The references are very important, and we usually write the references in the introduction, in the material method, and the discussion. And why? Why is that? We need the references in the background references or in the introduction to affirm the importance of the topic and to emphasize on the presence of the research gap and to highlight what are you going to do and to sell the point of your research. This is a very important point to justify your research question. In the methodology, you need to write the reference in order to provide the other investigation source of methods or to verify the validity of the result or to allow replication of your work. In the discussion, of course, to compare your work with the other researchers. So these are the places where we use the references. Actually, there are 2 main types of reference system. The system number 1 is the Harvard system, in which you write the name of the author and the year. And the system 2 is the Vancouver, in which you replace the name of the author by the number. And this is an example of Harvard method. So writing the paragraph, at the end of paragraph, between two brackets, you say the name, Munir, 2007, and then Jack and Mike, 1985, etc. So this is the Harvard method. We have, again, the Vancouver method, in which we put numbers like that one, 17, 18. You can notice here that 17, 18. If you are going to write 17, 18, and 19, you don't write 17, 18, and 19. You write 17 and dash 19, okay? But here they are different. You can see the second red circle, 1, 10, 11, 16, then dash 20, which means that 1, 10, 11, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20. So we replace 17 from 19 by a dash if they are continuously written or continuously referred to. Okay, so these are the way how to write the reference. We have the Harvard method, we use names, and we have the Vancouver method, we use numbers. And actually, there are many methods to facilitate using the reference, like the endnote, the Mendeley, the Zotero, etc. This is not the scope to talk about them now because they need a separate session. And the acknowledgement.
Dr. Aman, yeah, you can go.
Yes, please.
I want to say that the references should be updated. 6 years ago they accept references for the last 10 years, but now if you went beyond the last 5 years with the reference, I think the reviewer would comment on this. So your reference should be like updated, mostly through the last 5 years.
Yes, of course, you have to update your references, but actually it depends on the journal. In general, we have to say that you are going to do research and you are going to publish it today. And of course, in order to publish it today, you have to have a recent references. But the limitation is depending on the journal regulation, because if you are going to submit any article for any journal, actually you have to read the regulation of the journal before sending the article, because some journals, they are indicating some points that you have to follow. Otherwise, they will refuse and they will reject the paper or refuse accepting the paper. So in general, our advice is to revise the what is called the regulation or the guidelines of the journal specifically before submitting your article to the journal. But it goes without saying that of course you have to put a very recent and updated references in your research. And at last, the acknowledgement. You are acknowledging the technical help. If you have the equipment, if there is any financial support or any administrative support, you have to acknowledge them. So now the abstract. This is the last part of the article to be written. Why? Because it is synopsis or summary of your work. I will stop here. Any question or any comment?
It's mixed between the introduction and the conclusion.
What does the abstract mean? You mean?
Yes. Didn't you ask about the abstract, or there was no?
No, I'm asking about any question or comment for the previous part.
No, thank you for the informative lecture, Prof.
Thank you. Do you know, is there any types of abstract? Anybody knows?
There is a
there any types?
Yeah, there is a structured abstract. Yeah, it's according to the regulation of the journal. If the journal asks you to make a structured abstract, so you go for introduction, background, and conclusion. If don't, you will just write a paragraph in about 200 to 250 words.
Okay. According to the words, again, it is according to the regulation. Okay, some journals are mentioning a number of words for your abstract, and some journals, they didn't require that. And some journals are requiring a kind of abstract. For example, some journals are required what is called the graphic abstract. You don't know the graphic abstract. We are going to explain it in the residential session, what is meant by graphic abstract. But anyway, in general, the abstract is a synopsis of a longer piece of work, of your work, which is published in isolation. from the main text and should be therefore stand on itself. The abstract is very important to be explaining the paper, and it should be stand for itself. Why? Because the abstract is the only communication sometimes between you and the readers and the editors and the reviewers and the conference scientific committee, etc. Most people usually read only the abstract, actually. And abstract helps the leader to decide whether to read your full paper or just to avoid it. And abstract helps editor to decide whether to send it for reviewing or not. And the abstract will often be the only piece of article that is present on the electronic libraries. And that's why the abstract should be written in a very meticulous way. Because as I said, it represents the selling point of your article. There are many types of abstracts, and this is called the non-structured abstract because there is no structure in it. It is just a paragraph or whatever, but it is or descriptive abstract. But we actually like to have what is called the structured abstract, which is classified into 4 parts, and also again, it is according to the journal. In general, most of the journal required the 4 parts abstract, but there are many other journals who are requiring specific regulation to write this abstract. So this is the most common type. This is the structured abstract. It is classified into 4 parts. Part number 1 is the background and the hypothesis. And in this part, you are going to say what is the aim of your study. And in this part, you have to highlight the research question. The methodology, you have to say what was done in your research. In the result, you have to highlight the key result, not all the results, but the very important part of your result. And in the conclusion part, you are going to write interpretation of the clinical implication of your result, or you can say it in another word, what do the findings mean? And that's why we say that an abstract should be stand alone. Actually, in the abstract, we shouldn't put any technical detail, no abbreviations, no citations, no tables or figures or illustration. So the take-home message of this part, the abstract is very important to be written in a very meticulous way because it is the selling point of your research. So to conclude that, or to make a wrap-up for this part, the abstract will tell what did I find in my research. The introduction will tell what is the problem. The material method will say, how did I solve the problem? And the result will highlight what did I find? And the discussion will highlight what does it mean in relation to the other key player. And the acknowledgement will highlight who helped me in the literature. And the literature cited will help the other people to find whose work did I refer to. And the appendices are the extra information of the research. So the introduction, as we said, should be written in the present tense. Otherwise, if you are going to tell something from the past, you will write it in the past tense. The methodology and the result are written in the past tense, but the discussion and conclusion are written in the present tense. So this is what is to be written as a verb tense for your paper. So now I have to ask myself, am I ready to submit my research for publication? Actually, the answer is no, because if you submit your research for publication, you have to imagine what is going to happen to your publication. There is a lot of revision, there is a lot of critical appraisal, and every part of the research should be revised. That's why I have to revise it before submitting it. I have to revise it, and revise it many times before doing any submission. And I have to revise also the ethical point of doing my research. So what is the ethical point? What are the ethical points? I have to revise the authorship and the scientific misconduct. Is there any fabrication or falsification or plagiarism, which is very important. I don't think that there are many who are doing fabrication and falsification, but the problem is in the plagiarism. So what about the authorship? We have to avoid what is called the gift authorship or the guest authorship or the ghost authorship. So what is that? Anybody have any idea about that? Gift, guest, ghost. Any idea?
Somebody will just do him or
Gift
her a
author
favor
is the one who just
by
add him
putting
to the
their
manuscript
name.
as a gift.
Yes, again. Can you say it again, please? Dr. Plamy, Father?
No, I was talking about the gift author.
Yes, what is a guest author? I think there was. Okay, so let us say what is the guest author or the gift author or the ghost author. Actually, the gift authorship is a co-authorship awarded to a person who has not contributed significantly in the study. It is just a gift. So if I can think if I'm going to write somebody's name in my research, he's going to write my name in his research. And this is the gift authorship, and it is not ethical. What about the guest authorship? Is a co-authorship awarded to those with respect and influence in the field to increase the possibility of publication. So if you know a name of somebody who is very famous in this area of research, so you can just put his name in order to assure that your research is going to be published. And this is called guest authorship. And that person didn't have any contribution in the research. So this is guest authorship, and it is not ethical. What about the ghost authorship? Are the person who qualifies for authorship on the article, but did not include it as an author. So, for example, the most junior happens with the most junior who contributed in the research and collecting data and doing so and so, but when writing the manuscript, they, we can say, forget, or they didn't write their name in the research. So this is called the ghost authorship. And all these types of authorship, the guest, the ghost, and the gift are not ethical. What about the scientific misconduct? We have fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. And actually, falsification is a process of changing or omitting data or result. For example, changing the result or omitting data and to make it more significant. So this is what's called falsification, which is making data in order to have publication. Fabrication is making up the data. You don't have any data, but you are making new data. And I don't think that many people are doing that, fabrication and falsification, but actually the problem is in plagiarism, which is appropriation of language or idea or thoughts of another without crediting their true source. So plagiarism, we have many types of plagiarism, like direct plagiarism or direct quote, which is writing someone else's paperwork without appropriate citation, and this could happen. Or self-plagiarism, like using your own previous paper fully or partially and reproducing it in the new assignment, and we are calling that salami plagiarism, which is taking part of your previous paper and making another paper, etc. That's why they call it self-plagiarism or salami plagiarism. And sometimes you have accidental plagiarism, which is changing the words in another's paper, but the structure and the whole meaning remains the same. And this is a very common one, and it is a very serious one. If you are having any help from the artificial intelligence, you have to highlight it in the material and method. And this is very important. So now, am I ready to submit my research? Actually, we have to think about that. As an author, you can start submitting your paper, but you have to know what is the circle of reviewing your research. Number one, your paper will be received by the editor. And the editor of the journal will make a basic requirement follow-up or checking. He will make basic requirement checking. He may reject the paper if it is not fulfilling the criteria or the regulation of the journal. So he may reject it from the very beginning. Or he may assign reviewer to review this paper. So the paper will be received by reviewer. Could be 2 reviewers or 3 reviewers or any number of reviewers according to the regulation of the journal. So the reviewers are giving their recommendation. These reviewers may recommend absolute rejection of the paper, or they may accept the paper as it is, or usually they ask for minor revision or major revision. So before submitting my journal or my article for a journal, I have to imagine this process, that the editor will revise it, the reviewers, how many of them will revise it. I have to revise it myself before sending it for reviewing. So I have to ask myself questions. Is this paper is of interest? Why it was done? And what was the research question? And how was it done? And what has been found? And what is the implication? What are the implications? And what else is of interest? Because these questions will be asked by the reviewers. So I have to put myself in the shoe of the reviewers before submitting my article for publication. And actually, we have to know that good articles are invitations, and they are inviting the readers and the reviewers and the editor-in-chief to engage in your paper, and this is very important. So the general philosophy is that we usually don't have acceptance of our paper at the very beginning. Sometimes you have rejection, sometimes you have major revision, sometimes you have minor revision, etc. But even if at first it failed and you didn't succeed, we have to try again and again and again in order to make it much better than before. So now to wrap up our session, we had an overview on writing a well-structured research paper for publication. And that was our agenda, to write our research from A to Z. And last time we started from having an idea, and we know how to formulate our research question. We know how to choose our research design, and we know what are the data that we are going to collect for our research, what are the sources of data, and how to analyze the data. And today, we already know how to write our manuscript in order to be ready for dissemination or for publication. So this was our journey, and I hope we can write a paper that can be accepted by everybody or every journal. And the last take-home message, that you have an idea and you conduct a study and you write your paper, and ultimately you can make a big difference in the field of research. This is a final step to celebrate your publication of your paper. Thank you so much. If you have any comments, any questions, we still have some time. So feel free to ask or to give us reflection, feedback, whatever you want.
I just want to say to tell about the desk rejection. It's something earlier than the editor of the journal. If you choose the journal, the desk, the secretary office will reject your paper because it's not within the scope of the journal, or if you exceeded the limitation of the words, or you didn't prepare it in like a draft aligned with the journal regulations. Thank you.
Yes, right, you are right. That's why we emphasize on reading the journal regulation before submitting your article to the journal, because if it is not meeting, if your article is not meeting the requirement or the regulation of this journal, it will be rejected at the very beginning of your research. And this is actually very disappointing. So that's why it is a very important point. It is a crucial point to read the regulation of every journal before submitting your article for it. Yes, you are right. Any other comment? Any other question? Tell us about, anybody want to share about his experience in accepting or rejecting his paper?
Can I say something about rejection?
Yes, please.
Yes, my second paper, I think it went viral after that with about 40 citations. It was rejected in a very bad manner. The email mentioned from the reviewer, or the email received from the reviewer, they say that we think that a student wrote this paper because it was COVID, and I mentioned that the COVID increased the perioperative complications, especially the respiratory complications, and there was no evidence about it. So even the professors with me in the paper said, I think there is nothing to do about it. I waited for 1 month. I think 2 reviews came came enforcing my hypothesis. Then I rewrite the manuscript and highlighted these 2 fresh or updated references. Then it was accepted in a Q1 journal. So even if the reviewer's opinion was so harsh, so hard, is still 1 reviewer or 2 reviewers. So if you just take their comments positively and you rewrite and consider it for sure, then you rewrite the paper, and you have a good opportunity to even submit it to a higher class journal. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your experience and for sharing your experience with us. And actually, we have to know that their response was not acceptable. So their response, as if they say it cannot be, it is written by students, this is not acceptable, because you will be reviewers one day, and there is a code of ethics for the reviewers. There is a code of ethics in the manner of talking, in the manner of providing their feedback. So this way is not acceptable as a reviewer. I'm a reviewer of many international journals, and there is a guidelines, and then there is a professional issues we have to follow, that when replying to any journal, we have to write our reply in a very specific moral.
Prof, can I share one experience?
Words, and it's not acceptable to respond like that. So this is number 1. Number 2, of course, this is not a failure. If you have any rejection of your paper, this is not a failure. You have to submit it to another journal if you have complete rejection. By the way, you cannot submit your article for 2 different journal at the same time. You know that, of course. So if you have a rejection, you have to submit it in another place. Maybe they will appreciate your work more than the first one. So doctor, whoever want to, Dr. Shear?
Prof, can I share one
Yes.
thing? Prof?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Prof, there has been a problem with the Springer Nature journals, BMC. Actually, they will keep the paper with them, and after that they will give comment. It is the same comment for all papers, and they will tell that the paper is not of the, they will not give any comments, and they will just reject with the editor. And this we have seen this since last, and there was a problem. My paper got accepted in BMC1 journal, and we paid the APC, and it was a production, and then they told that paper is rejected. So these things are common nowadays, Prof. And same with my qualitative study, they don't give any comments. If we get comments from them, we can improve. There's no problem. But they don't give any comments, and it is very much, we don't know what is the problem with them, but they will just tell that paper is not fitting our scope, and even when it is in the scope. So that is a problem, Prof, we are facing.
They don't give you any comment to improve your paper.
There is no comment, Prof. They will just they will tell that paper has passed technical check with editor. Then after 15 days, 20 days, they will send us a rejection. Then we ask them, what is the problem? Any problem you have with the paper quality, writing method, everything? There is no comment. So this is happening with Springer Nature, Prof, nowadays.
Actually, this is very strange, because you have to have some feedback in order to improve to rewrite it again and to submit it in another place, and this is very strange. Actually, some of the reviewers, not all the reviewers are excellent. Some of the reviewers, maybe they are busy, they don't have time, but to have this for all reviewers, this is very strange. I don't.
You know, Dr. Aman, one
Yes.
of most cited papers for me was sent for Helayon Journal. It's, I think, Q1 or Q2 with impact factor 3, 4, something like that. After 1 month, they told me that we cannot secure reviewers for your manuscript, so we regret to decline it. I told them I will not accept this. I will secure reviewers for you with no conflict of interest. And I sent them list of reviewers. You can imagine, because I fought for my paper. And the reviewers came with positive, and they accepted it for publication. So I think sometimes you should like fight for your paper, even when because we cannot secure reviewers in a good journal. It's a disaster, because reviewers have nothing to be encouraged, because there is no money, there is no even some journals give you like credit certificate, but most of them do not provide you with any benefit.
Yes,
So I
I
secure
agree. I
reviewers
agree.
for them, and finally it got accepted.
Yes, I agree with you, because a reviewing process actually is is a very tedious task, and many of the reviewers who are experts, they don't have time to review, and actually there is no income and no reward. As you said, some of them are giving them some credit, but sometimes they or most of the journals, they are not giving any credit. That's why many of the reviewers are reluctant to review many papers. I agree with you in that. And this is actually an international or global problem for all journals, or for most of the journals. So any question, any more comment?
Prof.
Could you
Amal,
please tell us
Prof. Amal, I'm waiting for your comments on my paper. Hope you'll send me soon.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you, Prof.
I'm trying to finish it, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
As soon as I can, I will send you. Maybe by next week, I will send it to you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Yes,
send
next
this
year.
lecture to us, please? Could you tell us where is this lecture available, Doctor?
Pardon me, Dr. Gamal, or who is talking?
Yes.
Yes, please say it again.
Could you please could you tell us where this lecture is available?
When I think Ms. Shaima is doing some recording for the lecture, and she will submit it. And for the PDF version, it is available on the Moodle.
Not available, Dr. Amal.
I send
Sunday.
it to you. I send it to you, Miss. I send it to you. I send the PDF version.
تمام ماشي.
Just upload it.
تمام.
Okay.
So please,
Okay.
we want
Okay.
this PDF format, please.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any question? Any more question or comment? So thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you in the residential session, and wishing you all the best in writing your manuscript. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Dr. Amal.
thank you, doctor.
Thank you so much, dear professor.
Thank you very much. Bye.
تصبحوا على خير جميعا.